there. People loving Colin Quinn, man. I wish I had more time with him to really dig in there, but he was.
Go see him. He's just a fantastic writer and
dynamite.
performer.
Yeah.
He's very smart, but he makes it very, so dumb people can understand, like me. So I love it.
Well, that's really the genius of what he does. Is back in the day, and for a long time, people thought that because he leaned into people thinking he was a lunkhead, and he's very much not.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody asked if he was the original host of The Daily Show, and I said, well, that was Craig Kilborn. Colin did Update on SNL after Norm got fired.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he was ever part of The Daily Show, but Saturday Night, he was kind of that bridge between like the Norm era and then like when Will Ferrell came in and Sherry O'Terry, Colin was still there.
Who took over Update after him? Because he did it for like 3 or 4 years.
After Norm?
Yeah. Well, after Colin.
Oh, after Colin, it was... Didn't they try the Tina Seth Meyers thing after that? They tried the 2-person thing.
Was it that soon that they went to that?
I
feel
thought
like there was
so.
One more.
You might be right.
I thought there was one more, but I can't.
This would have been a question for Colin Quinn.
Who replaced you? Yeah, it was
Colin, come back.
It was Jimmy and Tina.
Okay.
Yeah, Jimmy Fallon and Tina Fey.
That's right.
Took over. And they have the cast audition. They go, hey, who wants to do Update? And then they'll screen test a couple. So they screen tested Anna Gasteyer and Chris Parnell, and they screen tested Jimmy Fallon and Tina Fey. And they looked at Kevin Brennan, and they looked at Jeff Ross.
Oh, man.
And they looked
Kevin
at a bunch
Brennan.
of, right? He took a hard turn into some other things.
Yeah.
But, so after Norm Macdonald got fired, because everybody's heard that story, that Don Ohlmeyer didn't like him making all the OJ jokes. Although I think everybody involved has basically said that wasn't the case, that it really wasn't about OJ. It's just that Don Ohlmeyer didn't think that Norm Macdonald was funny. I guess all of the people laughing all the time during Norm's updates were just not enough anecdotal evidence for Don Ohlmeyer to be able to...
It's because anecdotal evidence.
Is that what it is?
You tell me.
But I remember, too, that Al Franken was really the only guy who really made it known he really wanted to do Update. And that's why Al Franken ended up leaving Saturday Night Live, because Norm got Update, and Al Franken really lobbied for it, really wanted to do it, and they were like, no, and so he left. And Chevy Chase always said that Norm Macdonald was the only other guy who did Weekend Update and made it funny, because Chevy was the first guy to do it. I mean, when I started watching SNL, it was probably, who's the guy that's Brad Hall, Julie Louis-Dreyfus's husband, was doing Update when I was a kid. I started watching SNL when I was like 10, and it was Brad Hall. And then for like a cup of coffee, it was Christopher Guest. There was a season in the mid-'80s where they were like, hey, we need to give the SNL a fresh coat of paint. So instead of getting comedians, let's get actors. And it was a disaster. So it was, I mean, they signed like big names to like 1-year deals. So it was like Christopher Guest, it was Billy Crystal, it was Martin Short, but they got like Robert Downey Jr. and Anthony Michael Hall. And, they weren't comedians. They were just like actors who were in funny movies. And then Dennis Miller, he really kind of blew up from Update. But Colin did it for 2 years. And the running joke was that, like, people kept calling him Norm, right? Remember when, like, Will Ferrell would be doing a bit, and he'd go, hey, Norm. So, whatever. But a very funny dude, and a very, very creative guy. And one of Poundcake's favorite comedians, from what I'm told.
Yes.
All right. People are leaving messages for Poundcake on the iHeartRadio app. We've got some thoughts about some of his suggestions.
Hey guys, Brendan. Hate the show. Real quick, can you guys tell Poundcake to visit Europe before he talks like he's actually been to Europe? I lived there for a year when I was in the military, and this dude's just wrong. Just wrong. All right, anyway, hate the show.
I think, Poundcake, he's taking umbrage with your discussion of European sex clubs, and he's trying to tell you that, but then you said you had friends that have gone over.
My friend went on.
You were just conveying their anecdotal evidence.
Yeah, I've just, from the videos I saw on Instagram, so whatever, what evidence that is. But he told me, like, just the clubs that he went to. So, yeah, he's gay. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
Yeah, that dude's probably not going to those same places.
So it's very ingrained into the culture over there. So whatever. I haven't been there.
When I was home this past weekend, neither of my older nephews were there. We were at my middle brother's house, and he and his wife are empty nesters now because my oldest nephew is in Tucson. That's where he lives and works. And the other one is getting out of the Army. Well, not getting out of the Army. He finished basic training, and now he's going to find out where they are stationing him. And he joined because he wanted to go overseas. But now he's worried because he is worried they're going to station him somewhere here. And he didn't join the Army for that. Because that's kind of how they hook you. They're like, hey, see the world, or whatever. And my dad was in the Army. I was born on an Army base. So that's the Army is kind of the history in our family. But he joined. He eventually wants to get into like federal law enforcement or something like that. But he was basically the only one, I think, in his class with a college degree. And so I think somebody had told him, well, that is going to kind of allow you to maybe have a hand in where you're stationed. But his concern is that he's not going to go overseas. He's like, I don't want to be in the Army and in Dallas or in Seattle. He's like, so he really wants to be. I thought, and I guess my brother hadn't clarified with this, I thought they told him that he was getting stationed in Germany, but that wasn't the case. He's like, no, he told them that's where he wanted to go, and he's hoping that that's where they put him, because a lot of the other guys that he has gone through basic with, they don't care. They're like, whatever, you know. He really wants to go to Germany, and wherever he goes, he's going to be there for 3 or 4 years.
It was funny.
I'm like, man, can you imagine going through that? And then they go, we're putting you in Tampa. He'd be so pissed.
It was funny because one time I called my friend who's in the military, and I was like, what's up, man? He's like, hey. I'm like, where are you? He said, oh, I'm in Delaware. I said, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, what's in Delaware? He said, nothing. It's Ohio. I said, oh, Delaware, Ohio. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I would have thought the state of Delaware too.
Right, yeah.
I'm like, you can't just say that. Like, I don't know that that's outside
I'm looking
Columbus.
for Russian submarines on the Delaware Bay.
I'm like, okay, Delaware could be nice depending on where you are. He said, no, bro, Delaware, Ohio. I said, oh, okay. Well, you have fun with that.
What's the military presence in Delaware, Ohio?
I don't know.
Wow. All right. Delaware, Ohio. So that's like suburban Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
He's not stationed there.
I think he's in the, I don't know if
The
it's
National Guard?
National Guard.
Oh, so he's like a weekend warrior.
I think that's very degrading to.
No, it's not. That's what they sign up for.
Okay, well.
2 weekends a month or whatever it is, and I think that used to be the National Guard. I think it still is. But like you know, it's pharmacists and
Yeah, I think.
retail. You know,
I don't know what what is considered a base, but I know that's just where he was. And when I called him, I was like, oh, yeah, you're in Delaware. I was like, wow, you got there fast because I just talked to you the other day. He said, no, Delaware, Ohio. I said, oh, okay, that makes sense. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I had the wildest, speaking of the military, I had the wildest conversation. Last night was my last time hosting the Cleveland Funny Bus.
Mm-hmm.
We've been doing it every Wednesday for the
People
past.
hit me up and said they had a blast.
It was so fun. Ricardo from the Latino list was there, and I got on the mic and told some overly complicated story. I was completely making it up out of whole cloth about how he and I, when we used to live in Tremont, like went down on a homeless woman, and now she runs Sherwin-Williams. I forget what it was, but anyway, but it was a lot of fun. But I was having a conversation. We have 2 more of these, by the way. Mary is hosting next Wednesday. I think they're all sold out, but just FYI, I will have passes for you to win on Tuesday. And then Poundcake is hosting the last one on June 28th. But they do tours all throughout the year, so you can go to funnybus.net it is a ton of fun. Their comedians are fantastic. Who are your tour guides? We're just there to kind of host and hang out.
Who'd you have last night?
Kristen.
Kristen. Oh,
Who was
Kristen's
great.
yeah.
She was the last one I hadn't worked with, so I was glad. And her mom was there, and she was lovely. But I'm having a conversation with a guy after we got back, and he and his girlfriend or wife maybe are both from outside Pittsburgh, and he had been in the military, and his brother had been in the military. Now, he was telling me that he was an oops baby, so his brother is like 24 years older than he is. But what he said to me was, he said, I guess it's something that I had said, and he kind of recounted it back to me. This was months ago. But he had recounted it back to me, and I don't quite remember it, but I'll take his word for it. He said there was something you said in the immediate aftermath of January 6th that gave me the courage to do something that I should have done with a family member. And I was like, it sounded very vague, but I was like, well, I hope that all worked out, and I didn't want to get too detailed about it. But it was just like, it was a fascinating conversation from the perspective of two people who have served, two people who have been in the military, but go vastly divergent ways with their politics. And it was just a very interesting conversation. I'm kind of editing myself right now as I'm kind of retelling it because it just occurred to me like I don't want to say something I probably shouldn't say. But it was just a really interesting conversation because my nephew is, in the military now, and there's all kinds of, people think that that if you're in the military, that there's one way because it is so rigid and because it's so structured that everybody kind of thinks one way, and it couldn't be further from the truth. It's just like regular law enforcement, The liberal cops get mad at me when I say there aren't a lot of liberal cops, right? And I don't mean that to be cheeky. It's just that that's not what law enforcement is known for. So, of course, there are liberal-leaning cops, but they kind of keep that to themselves. Alan is a former Air Force law enforcement officer. Don't effing do it. I don't know what that means.
Don't
go on the
enlist.
Yeah.
Well, it's a little late for that. I mean, he's finished basic, and he's
Well,
going to find out where he's
people.
going.
Yeah.
And listen, my sister-in-law said she tried to talk him out of it. She's like, he got a college degree, but that's really the path he wants to go down. And when he gets his money, and I'm like, that's great. I mean, listen, be wild if I don't know. I said maybe he'll end up in Dayton. Oh, that's an Air Force base, though, isn't it? That's not the Army. I don't know. Alan, I joined to see the world, and I got stationed back at the base in my hometown.
Oh, hell no.
Wow. Well, yeah.
I'd cry. Even if I would be surrounded by a bunch of hot men, I'd probably put up a front to try and be tough, but I'd probably cry myself to sleep. Honestly, that might get me through because I wouldn't show it on the outside, but...
Yeah, but the other guys in the barracks would hear you crying yourself to sleep, probably.
I can cry silently.
Can you? But what fun is that? To stifle a hard cry?
I think I just have to get it out because I'm like, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe this is my life. I can't believe this. And just cry to myself. And then I'll wake up in the morning. I'm like, all right.
What if you rose through the ranks of the military? What if you ended up being Poundcake? Because we're past don't ask, don't tell. I mean, they need warm bodies in the U.S. military.
Yeah.
So they're really moving the chains. They're like, tattoos? Cool. Hey, you got a rap sheet? Cool. Come on in. But who knows? You could have ended up a full bird colonel.
I just can't deal with the individuality.
I mean, you are my chief petty officer.
Cody, how do you spell colonel when it comes to military?
CORNAL.
CORNAL.
Cornell.
Cornell. Try it again, dummy.
Colonel.
You can't do it phonetically.
Well, then I don't know.
Mary, spell it for him.
I can't.
What?
It's
COLONEL.
COLONEL.
What do you mean you can't? You set him up and you don't know how to spell it?
No, I knew how, but it took me a minute. And you know how often I do that on the show? Where I deflect and throw something to Poundcake because I know.
But
for
I didn't
sure
ask
he doesn't
you.
know.
You
I
asked
know.
him.
I know.
Just like a white
I'm
bitch.
saying I do it on purpose.
She is such a character.
Just like a white
Just
bitch.
like a little, oh, well, the black guy can't do it. Make me look better.
Not about being black, not about being gay. It is about your level of intelligence, Cody.
I'm not racist. He's just stupider than I am.
Right.
Mary, why you bugging?
All right.
Stupid little audition tape.
Hey,
Give
you're
him
gonna be mad.
Get a sob story.
You're gonna be mad when I make it. I'm not giving you any of my money when I win.
I don't care. I don't want any of your stupid money.
Hey, why would he be mad if you made it?
Cause Cody's a
'Cause he's
jealous
petty.
little bitch. Yeah,
Yeah, why can't you enjoy people's successes, Poundcake?
he's never known how.
But it's
in
not a
his whole life.
zero-sum game. Another person's success doesn't diminish your own.
What did I say the other day?
Mhm.
If I slept with Mary, I would be very happy right now. Like,
What?
wow. So,
Because
We
he
tried
would
to
take,
set that up.
Years
We-
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you rebuffed us with extreme prejudice, as did she, in all honesty. But because Poundcake takes, he feels that he is owed some measure of credit for the accomplishments of people he has had sex
Right.
with.
boost my
It is the
self-esteem.
wildest theory I've ever heard. You know what would boost your self-esteem more? Your own accomplishments.
They do, but it helps it even better. I got mine plus someone else's too.
Yeah, that's like a point. Even if you took any credit, yours would be 100%. Theirs would be like a 1.5% at best.
It would just be really cool if I slept with someone and they like were on a reality TV show and I'm like, wow, I saw that naked,
Cody.
and then they won $1 million. I'm like, wow, someone I used to sleep with. won $1
Right, but they
million.
would never admit that they did that with you.
They don't have to.
It would be, oh, okay.
I'd be like, look at I know exactly where that birthmark is. Like I can see you got a tattoo.
Well, you're
right
paying
there.
that close attention.
You got an infected hair follicle. I remember.
I just sent.
An infected hair follicle. Bro, you better get that checked out.
That's what he told you
Wow.
it was.
Yeah.
I just sent a picture.
Get a tweezers.
I just sent a picture to our group chat of the two gay guys and the chick that I auditioned with today, Cody. And said they're going to go to that bar that you told them to go to. So if you want a chance, you and your boyfriend go down to Columbus.
Those are good-looking dudes.
Aren't they cute?
And she's got a nice
That girl's
rack.
cute,
Dude,
yeah.
we had a very good-looking group. I was the least attractive
Well.
person in that group. But both those guys are like 6'3" and jacked.
Oh, they're
I mean,
married.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Like, and they are like muscular everywhere. But I told them, Cody was like, oh, go to this certain bar in Short North. And like, we'll definitely check it out. So if you get with them ahead of time, maybe
You keep looking for a thruple.
That's what I'm saying. You and your
Yeah.
boo and those two, you guys have a little weekend, and then one of them wins Survivor.
Your biography can be called Boo and the Two.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes. The club I told them will definitely show them a good time.
A
Access.
sexual threesome.
It's dripping with gays on a Saturday night.
Well,
so
go
that's
down
one.
there. Get you some pre-Survivor.
There you go. Get your drip going.
I have so much stuff to do this weekend.
And the girl was their friend, Mary?
Mm-mm.
Who was she?
She's from Kelly's Island.
Oh, God. That's a
she
local
lives
girl.
on Kelly's Island.
That's what she said. She said she drove 15 minutes.
I was going to say, she just took a boat over.
Yeah.
from-
She's
yeah.
lying.
She said she's from Kelly's Island.
Why would anybody lie
Who
about living
lives
at
on
Kelly's
Kelly's
Island?
Island?
Plenty
Yeah.
of people do. It is a residential area.
Yeah, you're just kind
People
of
have
like
summer homes there.
hang out with the people you're in line with all day.
There are people who
You know?
live there year-round.
Okay.
It's a summer place for you.
Yeah, people live on Put in Bay.
I know
People
they do.
live in these
It's very
places.
small. Yeah, they do. Okay, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But he knows about Europe, so that's all that matters.
That is all the. He doesn't know how Kelly's Island works. but he-
It's very sex positive. No one lives on Kelly's Island. Like, I'm just wrong. I'm just always wrong.
Not always. I mean, how can we be expected to take credit for your accomplishments when they're so meager?
Right.
Al and I lost the middle school spelling bee on the word colonel. So spell colonel again, Poundcake.
Oh, damn it. COLOR.
No
Oh, wait.
R.
Color. Yeah, that's. You just spelled color.
Oops.
You can't spell colonel without colon. Just remember that. Words to live by. I've got to take a break. If you want to send a text, 35192. I got another pair of tickets for Gojira and Mastodon.